I can't see you if that matters.
How's that?
Yeah, I see you now.
All right, we are live.
How's it going?
Good, Aaron. Yourself? Good. Hey, happy Father's Day. Belated by a day, sorry.
That's all right. You as well.
So hopefully it was relaxed. I know we were talking a little bit offline about it, and sounds like it was productive and fun all at the same time.
Yeah, well, we got some nice weather for it too. That was kind of crucial because today is not looking so nice. But at least we got a nice weekend in. I think we've actually been blessed this summer with nice weekends. We really haven't had too much dicey weather on weekends, so it's been nice.
No, and it hasn't been that typical, real heavy 80, 90, 100% humidity kind of stuff. It's it's been warmer, but not that heavy humidity. And if it's been a little hotter, there's been a little breeze. Yesterday was nice. It had a little breeze though, so yeah, no, it's been great. I got the boys out for golf yesterday morning, and like you couldn't ask for a better day. On like yesterday morning, it was cool enough to be on the course. It was nice and warm. But the breeze was going through, so it kept you cool. And for the first time, both my boys for the first time being on the course doing 9 holes, they were pretty tired after swinging away through that whole course. So the weather, it was a good thing to have that nice weather.
Yeah.
But so awesome. Well, let's dig right in. I think the chapter. The whole Technology Accelerators is going to be it's pretty straightforward. Going to be kind of quick, I think, here. Let me there we go. Technology Accelerators. And I don't know if you can see what my screen, but I threw in this next slide was basically the startup, because we talk as we get a little bit more into our bullet points from this chapter, on what the technology accelerators are and what they are not, or what they can and can't do. I thought it was crucial just to point out that there are a lot of steps, right? Level 5 leadership, what is it? Then the whole first 2, then what concept, moving on to the brutal facts, hedgehog concept, and then we talked about the culture of discipline. It's not till now that the technology accelerators come in. So it's not, and again, we're going to hit on this, it's not the start of anything. This is just extras that help push beyond, so I kind of liked this diagram.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think too many times we rush for that unforeseen golden nugget that, you see it in the age and the elements of what we're in now, Elon Musk putting people in space, and you have Tesla automobiles. I mean, certainly you got Amazon living in the digital age right now. And I think oftentimes a lot of dreamers out there, they want to be the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos, the next person to invent the thing that's going to revolutionize the world. And I think it's just wishful thinking. You could catch a break. I mean, you could. There's no saying that you can't. But oftentimes I think you're better suited, finding your true job and working towards it, and then using technology to do that accelerate it. I think you're going to end up in a much better spot.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's we have a better chance of winning the lottery, I think, than becoming the next Elon Musk. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, especially the amount of capital. I mean, good Lord, some of the capital that you put in some of those investments. I mean, you think of how much money that you can spend just on websites alone, and everybody wants to lead with a nice professional website, but you can also bury yourself right away, right off the bat, by investing too much money in your website.
Well, and at the end of the day, it's content, right? Content is king. Distribution, being the technology, is queen, right? So You have to have the information and the knowledge and the items that people want to take in, right? The content. What can you give them? That's what they're there for. I mean, if you don't have the content, all the technology in the world isn't going to help you.
Right. Yep.
So, so jumping on that next slide, just kind of hitting some of these points here. Good to great companies think differently about technology and technological changes than the mediocre ones. And I think that we were just kind of hitting on that, right? Like how you think about technology, how you think about the way you're going to implement it, or the use of it is just it's different. It's not following the same path.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I think too many times that no matter what business we're in, we think too wholeheartedly that technology piece, just say it is the internet, say you build this really fancy website where people can 2 clicks and they can order their product and it's on their way, stuff like an Amazon type platform. You spend too much time thinking about that, it's just going to completely cripple you. When you can probably get the same thing done with a little elbow grease and getting out and actually physically meeting people, shaking hands, and then having that website behind you as a place to go to show pictures, to show content information. There's absolutely nothing wrong with both approaches, but it's probably going to be more beneficial for you to move towards having the personal content, the personal touch versus the 2-click buy kind of procedure. I think you're just going to spend way too much time spinning your wheels. So yeah, I think the folks that do it right, they think about how they can use technology to their benefit, but not have it as a core of their business.
Correct, and that's where I would yes, it's an add-on. It's not the standard. It's not the sole pillar. It's add-on pieces. You have an established way to market or how you would get to market. The technology, that website becomes the secondary, right? It's an ancillary item that you're adding on that then helps push you through, right? I mean, but it wasn't the main reason, 100%. Which is, it's the next one, right? They avoid technology fads and bandwagons, yet they become pioneers in the application of carefully selected technologies. So it's not just a ooh piece of candy, right? That whole, over here, over there. It's, look at this new app or this new way of communicating with the market, whether it be a different type of social media platform or something. Again, it's getting your mind out of that I can sit behind my computers here and I can be clicking and chatting and downloading my way to success. That's not, at least in this explanation, it's not the case, right? I mean, it's just, again, you have to, it's your core business, and we use technology as the bolt-ons.
Yeah. And I got a funny story for you regarding this. In the advent of when smartphones really started to get smarter and we started having apps, I had absolutely consumed myself in my previous life because I was a little irritated with dealing with phone calls of people that want to have drawings for septic tanks. When you put in a septic tank, the excavators have to submit drawings to the state. So I said, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to build an app that guys could have on their phones because they always have their phones on them. And then they could just go to my app and then they could download all the drawings that they needed to. They could just click and then download it to their phone or they upload it to their computer. And I was so gung-ho on doing that. And I had invested about a month's worth of my time outside of work just to build this whole entire platform. I found a software package that could build your apps, and I went live with it and spent all this resources. Come to find out, nobody used it. Everybody kept telling me it was the dumbest thing that I'd ever done. And, it just completely destroyed me, because I spent so much time building it and I thought it was going to be the most revolutionary thing in the world. And I thought, hell, I was going to pave the way for all these other precasters, and it blew up in my face. And that's where I'm saying, you were saying, piece of candy kind of thing. You saw the apps were the big thing. You had apps were coming out left and right. And I'm like, great, I'm jumping on that bandwagon. I'm building my own app. It's going to revolutionize septic tank installations for the next foreseeable future. And it blew up. Yeah. So sometimes that piece of candy isn't always the great one. Sometimes you got to step back and breathe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, I got on the bandwagon of, I don't know if you're going to remember these, but the Nextel phone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yep.
So
The
when
touch to talk.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was a small company at the time. I had a couple employees. Most of those guys were out on the lawn care crew, and I was running the sole hardscape crew at the time. But it was this thing in my mind that I had to have constant line of communication. Like I need to know instantly what's going on, and need to be able to get a hold of these guys. And so we went from we had a couple of radios in the truck that were already set up, right? Walkie-talkie radios, like legit ones, and bought them all Nextel phones, and so that they'd have them on them, and I could instantly call them. And it turns out that they'd just leave them in their truck while they're on the mower, and so I've got a radio and a Nextel phone sitting in the truck, and so I mean, I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at how this company uses it. It's so great. You can communicate, and it just. Again, it was the piece of candy. I got to try it,
Mm-hmm.
and I dumped a lot of money into it to find out that it works no different than the radios.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one too. I remember that because we talked about doing that as well. We never bit the bullet on it. What we did do is we saw a whole bunch of big precast plants. They had the your main personnel would hold on to these radios. So you'd have the radio would come down over your shoulder like police officers do, and so we got into that, and it was like, I had a radio company came in and they were going to let us try it out for 14 days, and I think after day 3 we found out that it was just absolutely worthless. We weren't that big. We didn't need it. We just thought we had to have it because the bigger precasters had it, and so that was kind of funny.
This all fits into the next statement, right? The key question about any technology is, does the technology fit directly with your hedgehog concept? If yes, then become the pioneer. If not, then settle for parity or ignore completely, right? So settle for what everybody else is doing or don't do it at all. But the point being is that is it really something, and we're kind of talking about some outside of this with what we were talking on the radios necessarily, but like you said with the app, does it fit specifically with the core business? Or doesn't it? And potentially in this case it did. Obviously, it was core business was precasting septics and things like that, so it fits, but it wasn't necessarily pioneering something new potentially, right? I'm not a precast guy, so I apologize, but I see a lot of it of where the technology is fun and exciting and new, but it doesn't fit the core business model. It's almost like you're adding a new branch or a new division to fit what you think is going to be this explosion in technology, instead of it being for your specific core business. And then at that point, really invest into it. And, I see it as, and it's a little bit of a follow, and I get that. I think that things like Salesforce, CRM programs, right? Customer relationship management programs, are one of those things that are a core business item. Changing that and evolving that to fit yours a little bit, so in my case, I believe that the action plan that we talk about, and that I work with guys on specifically on the sales side, is a CRM program built specifically for hardscapes and sales, right? That is a core that's a core business technology in my opinion. Now, I'm not a pioneer in it, but that's kind of that mental thought about that.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think CRMs are kind of the rage, no matter where you're at in your journey. And so, the precast world, there's one company, I won't mention any names, that has a specific CRM solution that actually can integrate with engineering and production as well. And I mean, we priced it out one time for our company, and it was just ungodly amounts of money. Come to find out, I'm a big fan of Sheets, Google Sheets or Excel spreadsheets. So at any given time, I mean, I look at my computer right now, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sheets open right now. And that's how I operate. That's my CRM. Is it the most organized thing in the world? No. But it's sensible. I know where everything's at, and I get, the production that I need out of it. Now, somebody could come in that's, a hell of a lot smarter than I am and simplify it all and put it into a CRM system, probably make my life a little easier, but am I willing to pay that money? That's the question to ask yourself. Are you willing to pay that money? It's expensive. At the time, like I said, we weren't going to do it. It's so good. It was custom to just have all my spreadsheets open. That was the way it was.
Well, and does it add value, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the whole side of this is that you have to step back and think, all right, am I going to gain value back out of this that accounts for the cost that's going to go into it? And know that there's a learning curve and there's going to be, some time invested to get people on board, but that, that's going to have to be that other side of, is this valuable? Yes, this is part of my core business. Am I going to get the value back out of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll use another example. Sorry to get off topic here, but back in the precast world, this is just an example of how it's advantageous sometimes to take advantage of that technology. We had made a directive one year that we were going to go after one of your former places of business, County Materials, with the manhole side. We wanted to we were getting tired of getting beat up, our teeth kicked in, lost every single job that we possibly could to those guys. But we had all the forms, so we had all the core work, but they were just sitting there collecting cobwebs because we weren't getting any jobs. And so we had invested in a software package that helped us do better engineering drawings. When you do manhole takeoffs, they take forever. They were so arduous. I was the one that did them all at our company because I was our resident engineer. But they took so long to do. They took forever to do. And that was one of the big problems. Is these guys they bid these jobs and they want numbers like right away, and they want drawings right away. So we did some searching. We found this company that built this whole entire software package for other companies as well, but they built one for us with all of our manhole products, and we were able to speed up the takeoff time, the quote delivery time, as well as get the drawings in the hands of our production floor a lot faster. So using that software is kind of like the base as the core of like the relaunch of our manhole product line. We really took advantage of it, and it really did actually benefit and pay off. We started to gain the attention of some of these larger installers, and they started to send us more packages to bid off of, and we started getting more jobs, which was actually, real interesting. And I still to this day attribute, I would say probably 80% of that new business to that software package, and just creating that professional image and that quick turnaround. It was all because of that software package.
Nice.
So that's an example. If you get asked, what should I invest in the software package? There's one case that it actually did work out. It did actually benefit us quite a bit.
Yeah.
But if you read in this book too, on page 155, I thought this was really interesting. A little quip. The authors of this book were actually quite surprised to find out that 80% of the good to great executives don't even mention technology as one of the top 5 factors in transition. I thought that was very interesting because some of these names that are in this book, I would say they're technology driven, but they have technology applications within their business. They mentioned Walgreens. Walgreens was, they 1 hour photo. They have like a very easy way to upload photos and get photos printed off. That's technology driven 100%. So,
and just the connection of those stores, right? I mean, the satellite connection of every store was decades ahead of the rest of that industry.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was shocked by that statistic myself.
Yeah, that they don't the top 5 reasons not 80% of them didn't come up with technology. It was crazy. Yeah. The next setup is use technology as an accelerator of momentum, not the creator of it. And then we kind of hit on this earlier, is that you can't. It's that whole, quick million, right? The next $1 million idea, get rich quick kind of thought process. Technology is not going to be the reason that you succeed. It's not going to be the starter of that whole thing. it's the bolt on, right? You're looking at that, your company, all those steps ahead of, who are you putting in the seats, who's on the bus, where are you going, that type of thought, and then technology comes down the road. It's not the beginning. It's not the starter of it. Outside of a select few that we could put on one hand that we were talking about earlier, right? The Amazons and Teslas and things like that. I get that. But I would argue that even that kind of technology, the right people have to be in place, right? And I think you could even argue that the whole basis of good to great, we talked about first to then what, in the type of a level 5 leadership. I don't know, right? I mean, I'm gonna step out on a ledge here that I could potentially fall off of. I get it, but is Tesla and everything that Elon Musk does, is that a level 5 leadership, or is it, if he's not in the picture anymore, is it the same? Right? Like, is it truly a good to great company or a great company or whatever? We can argue and debate this, I'm sure, forever. But my point being is that, there's something more than the technology there, right? Is it him and his passion and desire to just drive and push through no matter what, and that technology just happens to be there? Because I don't know if I would say that it's just the technology that pushed him, right? I don't know.
No, I think you're right there. I mean, there's certainly stories that circulate around, his insane work ethic and his, insane drive. Oftentimes people can't work for him because he pushes so hard. But I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question to pose. I don't know. I hear too many of them stories about him, really, just rubbing people the wrong way. Is it good, effective leadership? Is he, drunk with power per se? Just, when I think of Tesla and anything that Elon Musk thinks of, I just think of like these people sitting in rooms just thinking shit up all day long, or just like nerve centers of thought. And they just come up with all this weird. I mean, you've seen all the weird stuff he does. I mean, crying out loud, he's putting 30 satellites up every other week to try to give 5G internet to the entire world. Who thinks of stuff like that?
Solar powered shingles, right? I mean, that's another concept that's out. I mean,
yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, then the thought that he sleeps at the office, if he sleeps at all, I mean that there's a lot of things written on the potential type of management it is, right? I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be able to validate that unless you've been there and all that. But
yeah.
Again, it goes there though to it's the accelerator, right, of that momentum. I would beg to make the statement that I don't believe that Tesla's just there because of a technology. It's there because of, the craziness that is Elon Musk, and he's just. I think his technology helped it all, right?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
It is.
Which then I guess goes into this whole next point here is, how you react to technological change is a good indicator of your inner drive for greatness versus mediocrity. And I will tell you that I believe COVID is a magnifying glass to this, right? With everybody having to, everybody working from home that had the ability to work from home, right? So everybody that goes home, such as us. So if we look at our industry and how a landscape contractor typically works, you think about the sales process of going to a home, doing the quote, or having them into the office and doing the quote, and how dealers interacted with contractors, how manufacturers interact with both the dealer and the contractor. Technology had to kind of be embraced at that point. And I think there is. I think it's pretty easy. Everybody can kind of take an inner look at themselves and their company and their willingness to accept doing, YouTube and Zoom meetings and Zoom takeoffs or estimates or whatever the case was, to still stay in front and stay relevant to the end consumer, whoever that may be, we're not going to go away from this very, very quickly. So I don't know. That's a good indicator.
Yeah. Well, and it is, you see two different kinds of people out there when it comes to technology, those that ignore it and those that choose to embrace it. And I think that you have to truly embrace anything that comes out, because technology does change the world, whether you like it or not. And if you're going to stick your head in the sand and just try to let the storm blow by, it's not going to blow by. I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy every single brand new flat screen TV that comes out, or now the curved screen TV. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that you should have cautious, calculated approaches to evaluating the technology and implementing it when needed. COVID, I think you're exactly right, really exacerbated that and blew it up, and you had to embrace the technology in order to keep functioning for a while. But you definitely, in general, technology, whether it's a new excavator, some new laser screed, or something that's coming out, you really have to have a calculated approach to embracing that technology.
100%, because at this point in time, in the era that we are, it's not going to stop coming. Technology is ever changing and evolving. It's only going to continue to go forward. We're never going to go back. Let's be very honest, especially when we look at how the contracting community works, right? We're not going to go back to having 10 or 15 guys on a crew digging trenches by hand and things like that. We're lean and mean, right? 3-4 people to a crew, a mini excavator doing that digging, the efficiencies, things like that. That technology is here. How you are able to get to and communicate with customers is completely changing and evolving. And I think that to say that this is how we've always done it and this is how we're going to do it, it's proven, is a complete mistake. And I face this right now, because one of my biggest beliefs is 251, right? It's getting out to the contractors, getting out to the dealers, having that FaceTime, having that contact. And right now is challenging that concept, right? It's almost, is there a redefining of what that needs to be? And I know that that's something that I'm trying to wrap my head around so that I can help my customers understand this better. What does that mean? Is a face-to-face necessary? Where does that fit in nowadays? I don't think that's ever going to go away necessarily, but is there a way that we can embrace technology more and still have it feel personal and still be able to achieve the goals we need? All of that's changing. How the whole sales process, how the plant operates, things like that. I know that I can't put my head in the sand and say, hey, this is how I've always done it. This was proven. This works, because technology is moving forward. The world is going, and it's not going to stop for you.
Right. Yeah. That's well said.
So, and then I like these. These were kind of the unforeseen, or what the unexpected findings from the book, or at least from this, not from the book, but from this chapter. And we talked, again, we kind of hit on this, is that technology by itself is never a primary root cause of either greatness or decline. So it's not going to be the accelerator, right? It's not going to be the main reason that you succeed, but it also won't be the main reason that you fall.
Correct.
So as important as technology is, it's not the end-all, be-all to hold the business up. Again, it's just not that main pillar, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if you're taking that to bank, that is going to either be the primary growth factor or primary decline, I think you're just foolish. You're fooling yourself. But generally, there's probably a lot bigger issues going on. If it's in the decline phase, and if it's in the growth phase, it's generally probably helping, but it's not driving.
Yeah, and again, if everything's focused around the hedgehog concept, what is your core structure? What is your core business? It is what it is. Your core business is what's successful.
Mm-hmm.
Technology isn't gonna take that away from you one way or the other. So
Right.
yeah. And then we've hit on it, and I think that this sums up the entire thing, right? Like you've mentioned, it doesn't mean that you have to jump on the brand new TV, the brand new application that comes out, the brand new program that comes out necessarily all the time. Crawl, walk, run, right? Don't be afraid that even though all these changes are happening and technology is flying at us faster than ever, you gotta, bite off what you can chew, right? You start slow, be precise about what you're choosing to adapt and take on and use, but take it in those steps. You don't grab a hold of that moving train and try to keep up, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you and I have both shared, 3 to 4 stories on technology, both in success and failure. So I have to imagine that almost everybody that's watching has probably got a very similar story where they jumped on, too fast and it hurt them. So, that's very, I would just highly recommend a very disciplined approach. Ask yourself the question, how does this technology help me? How much does this cost? I would seek outside consultation. This book talks oftentimes about having a counsel. The counsel should be involved. Don't just jump on it and go. I would have a very calculated approach. I would have a test phase if it goes through approval and make sure it does actually do what it's supposed to do for you. Because it is very easy. When I go to the precast show, coming from my world, I'm walking up and down those aisles and I'm like, yeah, I'll take one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those. But it's completely illogical. You really have to be calculated in what you need and how is it going to benefit you.
Well, and like you said, the council is huge, and reaching out to your industry and people in it that potentially are already using that technology, right?
Yeah.
The answer is always no if you don't call and ask, right? Like, don't be afraid to say, hey, is that working for you? There's no golden secret. Hey, we saw this technology. I know you guys are using it. Was it beneficial? Was it worth the money? And 90, I would imagine that at least 90% of the people are gonna respond in a positive way. They're not going to tell you that they're not going to say anything, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I used to get in the habit of doing that. All the time. If there was something that I was thinking about, I'd call an industry friend and say, hey, I know you guys use this. What's your pluses and minuses about it? And that's you can't put a price tag on that because you're going to get some real world advice on whether or not it could benefit you or not. Obviously, you could have a different experience per se, but generally, if you're calling and they're telling you the god awful truth, it's either going to work for you or not work for you.
Yeah. So we kind of mentioned this in the beginning. It was a pretty straightforward chapter. So, but next week, chapter 8, the flywheel and the doom loop. This is like, for whatever reason, this is the chapter that the last time I did this with again, like I mentioned, I did this with another book club at a previous location, and we talked a lot about the doom loop outside of the book club. And in the book, we would see things where we were stuck in a doom loop at certain times. And
sure.
So this is a great kind of it's an eye opener, or at least something to read a couple of times, because this chapter I really do like, and I think some of us will find that the doom loop is easier to get into than we think.
Sure.
So
yeah. Okay.
But I appreciate everybody tuning in, and Aaron, the insights. Anything else that you have to add to this past chapter of Technology Accelerators?
No, it was very straightforward. I really appreciate the dialogue that you and I had going back and forth about the stories, because it opened my eyes to think that there's probably a lot of those stories out there. To hear that you went through the Nextel thing and I went through the radio thing, it was like, gosh, two different worlds did the same thing. So it is. I think there's a lot of those stories out there. It's very easy to get attached to technology, and you just have to be cautious about it. And evaluate it fully. So that's my takeaway.
100%. Yep. Well, I'd be curious if for anybody that's listening, I would love it, and I know Aaron would to shoot a message and just give us make a comment on the video of a technology failure or success, right? Just doesn't have to be long, just quick. I'm interested. I'd like to see what some of those are.
Yeah, I am too. That would be interesting. Like I said, between the two of us, we got 4 or 5 of them. I mean, I'm just curious what's out there. If it's there's got to be more.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I look forward to next week, and hopefully the weather is good for everybody outside of where Aaron and I are. But
yeah.
So awesome, Aaron. Thank you, sir. And until next week, same time, same day. We'll see you then.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys later.
Take care.